You've taken the test more than once, maybe 3 times, maybe 5. And every time, the same 4 letters come back at you. So you read the description. Strategic, private, 10 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. And something inside you went quiet and said, finally someone wrote it down. But here's the uncomfortable part. INTJ is one of the most overclaimed personality types on the internet. Not because people are lying. Because the popular description of an INTJ is essentially a flattering costume, and almost anyone who is quiet and thoughtful can slip into it without noticing. So today we're doing something different. 7 signs that you are not actually an INTJ. And then 3 traits that real INTJs have that almost nobody fakes correctly. By the end of this, you'll know exactly where you stand. And either answer is good news. Here's why this matters more than a label. The INTJ type isn't a vibe. It's a specific stack of mental processes, and the order matters enormously. Carl Jung laid the groundwork for this in the 1920s when he described cognitive functions. The idea that your mind has preferred channels for taking in information and separate preferred channels for making decisions. Isabel Briggs Myers built the 4-letter code on top of that framework decades later. What that means in plain English is simple. An INTJ is not defined by being smart, or cold, or allergic to small talk. An INTJ is defined by leading with introverted intuition, an internal pattern engine that runs in the background and hands you conclusions without ever showing you the work. And it's backed by extroverted thinking, which is the relentless drive to take that private vision and make it real, measurable, and efficient out in the world. Everything else, the dark aesthetic, the villain memes, the whole I have no friends and I prefer it that way energy is decoration. And decoration is exactly what most mistypes are wearing. Let's start with the one that catches the most people. Sign 1. You fell in love with the description, not the mechanism. This is the most common mistype path there is. You read a list of traits, you recognize yourself in 80% of it, and you stop there. The problem is that personality descriptions are written to be recognized. Psychologists have a name for this, the Barnum effect, first demonstrated by Bertram Forer in 1948. Forer gave his students what he claimed were individual personality profiles. Every student got the identical paragraph. They rated it on average 4.3 out of 5 for accuracy. The paragraph was assembled from an astrology column. So when the INTJ description felt like it was written about you, that feeling wasn't evidence. It was a well-written mirror. Real typing starts one layer underneath with how your mind actually moves, not with which adjectives feel like a compliment. But recognizing yourself in a description is just the surface error. The next one runs deeper, and it hides inside a word almost everybody misuses. Sign 2. You confuse being private with being strategic. These are not the same thing, not remotely. Privacy is about what you share. Strategy is about how you process. An enormous number of self-identified INTJs are actually introverts, with a strong sense of personal boundaries, which describes roughly half the introverted population. Susan Cain's work on introversion showed that the quiet preference is fundamentally about stimulation and energy management, not about calculation. You can be deeply private and have no long-range plan at all. You can also be remarkably open about your life and still be running a 5-year strategy underneath every conversation. So ask yourself honestly, are you guarded because you're protecting a plan? Or are you guarded because being known is exhausting? Those 2 answers point to completely different types. And notice which one costs you energy. Strategy is generative, running it feels like momentum. Guardedness is defensive, running it feels like holding a door closed. If secrecy leaves you tired rather than sharpened, you're managing exposure, not executing a plan. Now here's where it gets more complicated, because this next one is about the timing of your own certainty, and almost nobody thinks to check it. Sign 3. Your conclusions arrive with the evidence already attached. Real introverted intuition doesn't work that way. It's famously, frustratingly backwards. An INTJ tends to arrive at the answer first, whole, sudden, and completely unjustified, and then spends the next several days reverse engineering the reasoning that would explain it. Jung described introverted intuition as perception of the inner image rather than the outer fact. The conclusion shows up before the argument exists. If your certainty always comes packaged with 3 supporting reasons, ready to defend, you may be running a thinking first process rather than an intuition first one. that's not worse. It's often more reliable, but it's a different machine. Here's a simple test. Think of the last time you were absolutely sure about a person. Did you know before you could say why, or did you know because of what you'd observed? And this next sign, this is the one people around you get wrong most often, including sometimes you. Sign 4. You want, more than anything, to be understood. There's nothing wrong with this. It's deeply human, but it is a poor fit for this particular type. The INTJ's emotional priority isn't being understood, it's being effective. The judging function driving them outward is extroverted thinking, which optimizes for whether the thing works, not for whether anyone appreciated the effort. When an INTJ is misread, the typical internal response isn't hurt. It's a kind of impatient shrug and a move to the next problem. If you replay conversations at midnight, aching for someone to finally see what you meant, that's a feeling-oriented signature. It's often INFJ, sometimes INFP, two types that get mistaken for INTJ constantly because from the outside, quiet intensity all looks the same. If you're the kind of person who's willing to sit through an honest answer about yourself even when it's not the flattering one and you're still watching, that tells me something about you. It would mean a lot if you hit subscribe. We put out videos like this every week. Real psychology, explained in a way that actually makes sense for real people. Now, sign 5. And this is the part almost nobody talks about. You have plans, but you've never built a system. This is the great divider, and it's brutal in its clarity. INTJs don't just imagine futures, they construct the scaffolding to reach them. Spreadsheets, frameworks, contingency trees, processes they've refined for years and never mentioned to anyone. That's extroverted thinking doing its actual job. Not thinking about efficiency, producing it. The Mistype signature is a rich, cinematic inner world of plans that never gets built. Endless ideation, no infrastructure. That pattern is far more typical of an INFP or an INTP, both of whom experience ideas as the destination rather than the raw material. Here's what this looks like in practice. An INTJ who wants to change careers doesn't just want it. Within a month, there's a document, a skills gap list, a timeline with dates on it, and a decision rule for when to quit. The vision came first, but the vision immediately grew machinery. So look at your last 5 years. Not what you intended, what exists. Systems, habits, structures you actually maintain. INTJs leave physical evidence behind them. But this is the root underneath all of it. Sign 6. Your inner critic speaks in other people's voices. Listen carefully to the voice in your head when you fail. This is one of the most reliable diagnostics in typology, and it costs nothing to run. INTJs have a judging function that is deeply personal, introverted feeling, sitting quietly in the third position of their stack. It's underdeveloped, hard to articulate, and almost never shared. When an INTJ falls short, the criticism is internal and self-referential. I violated my own standard. I knew better. If your self-criticism sounds like your mother, your ex, your manager, the group chat, that's an externally calibrated feeling function, extroverted feeling. It's a completely different emotional architecture, and it belongs to different types. One judges against a private code. The other judges against the room. Neither is stronger, but only one of them is INTJ. Which brings us to the last sign, and honestly, the most important one. Sign 7. You use the type as an explanation instead of a starting point. This is the quietest sign and the most revealing. Mistypes tend to use the label as a shield. I'm cold because I'm an INTJ. I don't have friends because I'm an INTJ. I dismissed you because that's just how we are. Jung would have called this identification with a persona mistaking a mask for a self. And he warned that the more tightly you grip an identity, the more it starts to run you. Actual INTJs, in my experience, hold the label loosely. It's a model. Models are useful until they're wrong, and then you discard them. That instinct to treat your own framework as disposable is itself a signature. So those are the 7. Now here's the other side. 3 traits that real INTJs have. These are the ones that almost never show up in the memes and almost nobody fakes correctly. The first is the delayed reveal. An INTJ knows the answer months before they can defend it. They'll sit on a conclusion, quietly gathering the language for it, and then finally speak, and it lands like they thought of it that morning. They didn't. They've been carrying it since spring. The second is ruthless self-revision. A real INTJ will destroy their own idea the instant reality contradicts it. No mourning period, no ego defense. The plan was a tool, the tool failed, get another tool. Most people cannot do this. Most people negotiate with the evidence. And the third is the long horizon. INTJs live, uncomfortably often, inside a version of themselves that does not exist yet. They're loyal to a future self the way other people are loyal to a family member. It makes them patient in ways that look inhuman from the outside, and it makes the present feel perpetually like a waiting room. That last one is the cost nobody mentions. Living 10 years ahead means rarely being fully here. So if you got through the 7 signs and felt yourself flinch, sit with that. Because being mistyped isn't a failure. It means you are looking for language for something real, and you grabbed the nearest word that fit. That instinct, reaching for a framework to understand your own mind, is a good instinct. It just deserves a more accurate answer than a label you like the sound of. And if you're the real thing, you already know what the cost has been. The conclusions no one would take seriously until years later. The plans nobody could see. The long, quiet patience of building towards something that hasn't arrived. You're not cold. You're early. If you want to go deeper on this, I put together a video on what INTJs are actually like underneath the reputation. It's right here when you're ready.